morning. It's a beautiful day in Escanaba. Super old.
It is a beautiful day.
It is a beautiful day. Hello, everybody out there in the internet lands. My name is Jamelyn Gray. I'm one of two producers of this program, You've Got a Thing. Welcome to You've Got a Thing. On this February 26th of 2021. Joining me today are two members of the Milwaukee Theatre Alliance. Would you like to introduce yourselves? Something that I've completely forgotten about in the past few weeks.
I'm Jill Anapanasek, the Artistic Director of Milwaukee Opera Theater.
And I'm Katie Cummings, the founder of Pink Umbrella Theater.
And I'm also the Artistic Director of The Constructivists. As we just noted for ourselves a few minutes ago, we are three white women here with you today to talk about hopes and dreams and all sunshine and rainbows as we try to crawl out of the dead of winter in the middle of, or hopefully pushing out of, a pandemic. So getting out of winter and getting out of a pandemic. But I thought this was a good time to sort of reiterate about what we are trying to do, even with the Milwaukee Theatre Alliance. What the heck is going on? Because we do this show and then we never talk about the Theatre Alliance itself. So I thought we'd do that today.
We should talk about the Theatre Alliance, and you, Jamie Lynn, should tell us about the thing that is the Theatre Alliance and how it came into being.
I can do that. Way back in 2019, I was working with, or I had recently joined up with Kira Renkis, who is the other co-founder of the Milwaukee Theatre Alliance. We were starting to work on a project together. It was Aura Theater's first production ever of Measure for Measure, and I was going to direct that project for her production company, and then I also had to do, and then I was also working on the Constructivists, and so we just thought since we were working together, to do some auditions together to just expedite the process, just being practical. And then we just said, well, since we are doing it, why don't we invite other people into this process? And so that, because it was June, the Milwaukee rep auditions were 6 months ago. And as a lot of people know, auditions in Milwaukee are sort of here and there and far between and whatnot. So we thought that it was a good time to do another big, audition. So we invited a bunch of non-equity companies to come and do this first ever, non-equity audition. And that's how the Theatre Alliance just naturally came through that. We were just well, hey, since we're all coming together on this thing, why don't we make it a real thing? Why don't we just it was really just natural process. And myself coming out of Chicago and being involved through other companies with the League of Chicago Theaters, I already had some knowledge of that system and the things that bringing people together and strengthen numbers, what that can make happen.
I remember answering the call at about that time to those first meetings, and being supportive of anyone trying to make the world a better place for others, right? I'll back that. I'll investigate that. What you started is incredibly hard to do and almost never works, right? It's kind of like starting, I don't know, a theater company, right? This idea is something that others have had but have not been able to maintain the momentum to keep moving it forward. And so can you talk to us a little bit about the journey over the next couple years, and even entering into the pandemic, of the priorities of the MTA and what you're building over time, with a whole lot of time, attention, and hard work that nobody sees because you're doing it, way behind the scenes.
I think that right now, for at least during the pandemic, the idea was to just stay together. We are all going through the same thing. Every company is facing the similar challenges, all on a different scale. But we're all still trying to hire artists, make work happen, and stay in it, to be there for our patrons, to continue, giving them that artistic catharsis that we all need. So for the past year now, that has been the main focus of mine, is to just keep meetings going with the heads of companies, and then sort of what took over the last 6 months, that we can talk about later, was the Milwaukee Theater Standards, and that was the bulk of the process over the past 6 months of what we were working on. In the long term, like my big thing is that I want more money for theater in particular, just because I'm a theater person, but more money for art, and
that's just something we're going to keep arguing about, but that's cool. I get it.
Yeah, more money for because I do believe that theater is a public good. That's the bottom line. I feel like people need art in their lives. That people are better people when they have art in their lives, and the things that art provides, community, catharsis, empathy, meeting people who are not like you. Those are all things that are good for people everywhere. And I think that, especially in Wisconsin, where we are now 49th. We just learned yesterday. We're not 50th in art funding. We're 49th, but that's because Arizona went to 0. So, joy.
You start to succeed when someone else fails. Like it's
just... So. I want the Theater Alliance and the companies involved in the Theater Alliance, as far as strength and numbers are concerned, to make the theaters of Milwaukee more visible, to make them more a part of people's lives, to make theater more a part of people's lives in Milwaukee, but then, vicariously, I hope that extends to the rest of the state of Wisconsin, and create a utopia.
Oh yeah, let's do that. Why haven't we thought of that yet?
I don't know.
We should. I think we can.
Yeah,
in our own little corners. Utopian moments. If we can just get utopian moments to occur periodically, I think it's a step in the right direction. Yeah. Peyton, what brought you into this orbit besides Jamie Lynn's charisma
and tenacity? I have always kind of, I've been in the Milwaukee theater scene since college, right, which was a long time ago now, and have always believed in the strength in numbers. I never understood. I worked for a couple of different smaller theater companies. And I never really understood why we weren't banding together to all hire a graphic designer. We all need a graphic designer. So could 4 companies chip in $10,000 a year and hire somebody full time, and then that person does the graphic design for all 4 companies? Yeah, there's we can do stuff like that, but we can't do it unless we are, communicating with one another, or we're on the same page, or we're finding through the, through the MTA meetings, we're finding similar things that we're all, in need of, or struggling with, or trying to figure out. So when I answered the call, we had just started Pink, and knowing that, I don't have all the answers from my company. I never will. I don't ever want to have all the answers for my company. But somebody else might. And there are ideas out there that need to be cultured and cultivated. And, and then not only that, but like, how do we make them come to be? How do we make those utopian moments happen? And I think that we can do that by working together, by listening to one another, by leaning in really and trying to support all of the communities, all of the arts communities, and collaboration. And maybe it is by hiring a graphic designer, and maybe it is just finding a shared space, which is starting to happen, right? Like those things are starting to come out of these meetings. And I think that's an exciting, it's just an exciting journey for all of us to be on together collectively, right? And because really at the end of the day, it's about the art, it's about changing lives, right? It's about opening up our hearts and minds to new experiences as a collective in a community. So why not all get in the boat together and row in that direction? And yeah, row, absolutely. Like Sunstone Studios is the thing, right? That is coming out of these discussions. Like we need a place, we need shared space, we need. And so let's work together to figure out what those solutions are for the things that we need. I appreciate the question. I had a question for Jay Malin. This is kind of just a logistical question. Who can be in MTA? Like what's that? What does that look like?
That's in anybody on the greater end of things. The way that we approach this in the first place is trying to do things in a way that was manageable. So what we originally went to were sort of the administrative bodies, or the heads of and artistic directors and whatnot of companies, because the spaces that we were dealing with were meetings when we could meet in person. We were meeting in conference rooms and stuff like that. And so that's just a size thing. And just how many questions we can take in, and how many, it's just trying to be ahead of the curve on how we can best serve the community. If you really want to come to a Theater Alliance meeting, the door is always open. The door is always open. I know that sometimes it feels like we're shutting people out, or we're being secret, or things like that. But it's really just been about just what is most best manageable and how we can best serve. But I've always said the door is always open. If you want to send an email, if you want to contact anybody, contact me directly. Do it. We're here for you. On the big thing at scale, I hope to have systems, where we can provide services for all artists in Milwaukee. From just basic services of having a place where you can upload your headshot and resume, all the way over to resources where you can get the mental health you need if you don't know where to go. And hopefully we can find resources who can better serve artists on that front. That's sort of the big thing. We hooked up with Imagine MKE pretty early in the process, and if you don't know them, I also have their email address or their website address at the end, but it's imaginemke.org. They had started in 2018 or something. They're also fairly new, but they're sort of like this big umbrella of arts organizations. All of us, theater, dance, visual, music, the whole nine. And then I see like the Theater Alliance below that, and then, you know, the artists, the companies below that, the Theater Alliance below that, so that we can create this, I don't want to call it a pyramid, but but
a spiral. It's a spiral.
It's just a better organizational pattern, you know, to get people the things that they need. And so people don't feel overwhelmed, and artists don't feel overwhelmed, and companies don't feel overwhelmed, and all of that. But Imagine has been helping us try to get through this process of finding solutions to these things of systems that we need, so that we can start bringing in just the individual artists. Or Sachs is an abstract tower. Yes, we are the abstract tower.
This is an infographic in like 10 minutes. Just wait. Give us.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up my my publisher and make that happen. But you know, that's like the long game, because like I said, you know, for the past year we've just been trying to hold it together. And then, you know, 5-10 years from now, hopefully, I don't even hope, I mean, I hope within like 2 years, we can have some utility where at the very basic level, actors can upload their headshots and resumes to, you know, Theater Alliance companies, and just keep updating it, you know, when you have a job. But, you know, we were looking for ways like to have people have a login and things like that. And that requires systems, and that requires money, you know, because even if I wanted to get a developer, you know, to build our own thing, that's dollars and money and real tech. So Imagine MKE has been helping the Theater Alliance a lot with that.
You're talking about like you've used the metaphor of like just holding on through the pandemic a few times, but from my perspective, like when we do check in, like you're hustling on all these various agendas, you know, like the theater standards. You know, I don't know if this is the right time to segue to that, but it's like there actually is significant progress along some really important thought lines that has occurred even during the pandemic, when it's really hard to get things done.
Yeah, I mean, that whole hanging on thing, that might just be me. That just might be.
It's possible it's coming from deep inside.
on everybody. Yeah, I mean, so the theater standards were something that I had a knowledge of through the Chicago Theater Standards, which is where it sort of sprang from. And then Jim Neuner, who's our managing guy, also had it. He came back to Milwaukee from Portland, and they were also working on these standards. The Chicago Theater Standards were really born out of sexual harassment and abuse in the Chicago theater scene. We've sort of taken this, and it was sort of an idea, and I just remember in June that I was probably just, I think it was Katie who said it, who was like, if we're going to do this, we should just do it. Like, we should just get a meeting next week and get this committee together and get it started. So we did. So we formed the Not in Our House committee, which is what Chicago Theater called it, was the Not in Our House organization. Also a thing that normally I would be typing all of these things in, but I can't type and talk with my hands at the same time. But I believe it's notinourhouse.org. And we borrowed their doc, and last June, when George Floyd was murdered and all of the murders that were happening before this, we realized that a larger social justice piece needed to start to work into this document, and how can we make this document work for Milwaukee theater, our particular needs at this time. And so, I mean, it was really Katie and Ro who really were really the driving forces on getting the document to where it is today. Thanks, Joe. And yeah, so Katie also was great to have on this, because then she could bring in all of her language and needs for ADA compliance and anti-ableist language. And then Ro being on it was great to bring in all the LGBTQ plus language that needed to be, and gender identity that needed to be absorbed into that as well. And then we had Marvin Hanna and Odwin, who were able to be and Kanita especially, who were able to be our representatives, who were able to work the persons of color aspects of the document. So where we stand today is we are just on the precipice of taking this document to the public, because we do need to have actual members of the theater public. So it sat in a committee, and we did our best with it to get it to like a first public draft kind of thing. But the idea of the Milwaukee Theater Standards is to have a document that people can read and reference, and hopes and dreams of where we would like the community to be, where we would. What would be a utopia? What would be an ideal? This document is not going to be like you have to abide by this document if you want to be in the Theater Alliance kind of thing, but it's actually a great guideline to just get your company thinking about humanity and what standards you would like your company in an anti-racist, anti-ableist, anti-harassment environment that we all hope to have.
A pro-dignity environment.
Pro-dignity environment, that's great. That's great, yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot. Look what you just said. That's a lot. Those are very difficult issues to grapple with and articulate in words. Like in something that resembles a document. It's hard work.
Yeah, and it's we tried to put as much in there that we could, that we are not experts.
Yeah.
We took the standards, we took language and advice and needs from the We See You White American Theater document, the letter that artists of color in Milwaukee sent to the Journal Sentinel. We incorporated all of these things, mm-hmm. and we have resources in there to, as a start. Like, it's just as a start. And like I said, we're not know-it-alls or rich, and this is hopes and dreams for ourselves. I grew up in a small town. I grew up with a racist stepfather. I know these things, and so we all know that we're not perfect. I know I'm not perfect.
Oh, I'm quite confident I'm imperfect. Like, I don't feel secure about that many things, but I feel very secure saying that.
That's like the one thing that you're like, I got this.
The one thing that I'm like, I promise you, I'm imperfect.
I got this.
There's power in like studying the systems that exist, right? In looking at what's not working and tinkering with it and trying to fix it. But I think there may be even greater power in like employing your imagination to conceive of things that may not exist yet.
Yep.
Yeah, I think one of the things, as somebody who was, working on the document, we were working also in a very hostile environment, not within our group, obviously, that was not hostile, but like all of the things that were happening around us. And Jamelyn, the day we were literally in a meeting finishing up our anti-racist, anti-oppressive section was the day we were all together when we found out that we had a new president. And there was just a moment that happened on screen, you know, with the shared group of people who've been working very hard at finding the right words, right? Finding the right standards, finding the right thing to say to make sure that everybody feels that they are safe in a brave space, that they can be their authentic selves. And then that moment when the new president was announced, and I know we're all nonprofits, we're not supposed to be political, but I'm not getting political, but there was a moment in that meeting where we've just tears were shed, whoops of joy, and we were like, just go hug somebody, like end meeting now, like go do the thing that you need to do to celebrate this moment, to, you know, honor this moment, to you know, to find that hope. I think that, you know, which we all worked, you know, we were working towards with this Milwaukee Theater Standards document is the hope that our spaces are brave, that you can come in as you are into our spaces, and you will be honored for who you are in those spaces in that moment, right? And I think that that's just something that, you know, collectively, if we all buy into that as actors and artists and designers, and, you know, and we are creating brave spaces for authenticity, I cannot even imagine, to your point, Jill-Anna, of what the work looks like from there. You know, like, what does that work look like when you are safe and in a space that you can create as your authentic self, and that your voice is honored and amplified. So, you know, I will share that moment with everybody, because it was something that I don't know that I'll forget, you know, anytime soon. Well, yeah, Ro, right? Like it was super impactful. It was just super impactful. And I think that those are the kinds of things Posey mentioned before, right, in the chat. Like, you know, we focus on like the pre, and we're looking ahead towards the post pandemic, but like there's so many things that have happened within this time and space that have been good and need to be carried through, right? Like the things that we have found out, the silver linings that need to be carried through in the after time. And I think that the Milwaukee Theatre Alliance is working hard as a collective to keep those good things moving forward. And this theater standards is just a small portion and just one of those things that's come out of it.
Yeah, there are also things in the document, and again, coming from recommendations from other documents about work hours, like as far as getting rid of 10 of 12s, fair pay,
babysitting.
Right? Yes,
that's the thing.
Let's get Rachel on this program. Another thing, talk about PAL. Yeah, and that's part of what, you know, we hope the Theater Alliance provides, is a cultural shift away from old systems and move into a future where people aren't afraid.
Yeah, for sure.
As we were talking about babysitting, like Charlie was in here asking where his colored pencils are.
Very important question on a Friday morning, Jillian.
Crawled under my desk.
Right.
Under my desk, so as not to appear on the live stream. So that shows pandemic progress, right? Because earlier he would have just walked right in. You know, so he crawled under his desk, and then under my desk, and then whispered up to me, "Mom, where are my colored pencils?" So.
Yeah, well, and I mean, you know, Jill-Anna and I were on an Imagine thing yesterday, and both of our kids showed up like right at the same time. But some of that is, you know, questioning or looking at, you know, parents our age and how we haven't been able to be involved in the arts and in theater because there is no structure to that theaters are concerned with parents and providing childcare to artists, and how that could change the whole ballgame of like those parents having time to write, and the stories the new stories we could have, and the artists that we could get in the room if we would just stop focusing on I'm gonna say something terrible, and I'm just.
Well, I'll talk over you.
Can you translate?
That's not what I mean to say, but
Translate.
no, I was just gonna say, like so many injustices and inequities, it's just all right there for us to see if we're paying attention, right? But there's an enormous absence in the world of, like, we have gazillions of teenagers and 20-somethings that are embarking on theater projects, and then we have an utter dearth from like 30 to 60, where artists disappear because we're not supporting them, and they can't maintain anything that resembles a work-life balance, which we're not here on this call very good examples of, but like.
I know what you're talking about, Shelley. I have a perfect work.
And then we see it in Voice Lab, and then people sometimes come back when their kids are grown, because like they finally have time again to participate in a creative life. And that's wrong. Like we don't lose our need for creative outlet and connection, like for the whole middle chapter of our lives, So I think we're doing something way wrong that we're not creating. We don't have opportunities for people once they do start raising families to continue to be artists and participate in art.
Well, yes, cat butt.
Your cat did not get the note. Your cat has not learned anything in this pandemic.
Kid took the note. Cat did not.
Took the note.
It's only been here 3 weeks. She's a pretty smart cat, but like she hasn't figured it out yet.
I think all of this is to say that that there's so much more to talk about. Not only in Theatre Alliance meetings, but I guess this is a good time to because if you put it out there into the universe, it's going to happen, right? So I have been thinking about another Theatre Alliance talking show podcast thing where we can go into the nitty-gritty of, especially, and this is only because this is my point of view, this is where I come from, the non-equity theater community, and how the whys and hows of what is the non-equity theater community as opposed to the equity theater community, and why does it exist, and how all of those systems, the systems that we talk about that have created this current system of the non-equity world, how we can, the people involved in how we can change it, to just talk about these types of things. The one of the big reasons of why I stayed non-equity for so long is because I have a special needs kid. And you can't just, dump a special needs kid off somewhere and go to rehearsal, or you can't just pop to LA for pilot season. And that is life. But you just wonder how, if structures were a little bit different, if there was more of a safety net for our artists, if there was more of a fostering environment instead of this the constant nepotistic if you got money, you'll be fine, kind of environment that I grew up in. So, but another show for another time. It's just another thing that I sent to Katie and Joanna in particular, because we always end up in the same rooms together. So.
Well, I like that you sent a graphic with it. So it's sort of like, I've already got a name for our band. All you have to do now is learn how to play the guitar. I have everything else figured out. I've got a name, I have a logo, the t-shirts are on sale.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but that's just how my brain works. Yeah. I mean, I started a theater company before I had any real things.
Yeah. There are, I know that we're kind of over time, but there are a couple of things in chat that Posey asked a question, but I also just want to shout out to Tori. Welcome to Milwaukee.
Yes, welcome.
You here.
Absolutely.
Posey just asked a question. The inaccessibility or lack of auditions indicates that people get jobs from other people they know versus fair and equitable hiring practices as well. So how are your organizations working to change this? Question mark. Jill Anna, you answer first.
Yeah, I'd be happy to address that. So like, I hate auditions. I hate the whole system. So one of the things we started tinkering with right away at Milwaukee Opera Theater is the idea of not holding them. So like when theater is happening, I see 2 to 4 projects a week in all different kinds of spaces to try and be as aware as possible of what the makers in Milwaukee are making. And then we invented Voice Lab as like the anti-audition, which is it's just its own culture now. But it's an opportunity for singers to share singers and actors to share whatever they're working on at whatever level they're working on it. And receive feedback so that you don't have that empty experience of like walking in and then never hearing another word. So you have no idea how that thing just went. One of the other things we wanted to kind of get rid of was the pressure of a first impression, so that Voice Lab, if you're unhappy with the way something goes in February, come to the March one with a different song. You know, like you have infinite opportunities to just keep working and keep staying in our faces until we can't ignore you anymore. You know, like that's totally an option. We made sure that it's free, you know, so that there's no audition fee. Cause I remember, especially in classical music, that's really a thing where auditions can be $50 or $75 an audition. So you really have to like pay attention to which ones you're taking and manage that. It's like, that's paying for a job interview. Like that just seems uncool. So those are the little ways that MOT tries to address that whole idea of accessibility. So we had 2 people at Voice Lab who just found it on the internet and attended from Chicago this week. So it's like, it's just there if you're Googling.
I think over at the Constructivist, I really like the audition process now, but I think part of this is because I'm on the other side of the table, and for so long, 25 years, I was not. And
I'm not saying they shouldn't ever happen.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Personally, it was like, I recognize that I dislike this, and so we're going to do something different.
I personally think some of the things that we see in the Milwaukee community, having come from a larger community, is that there certainly isn't as much regularity in the cycle as I mentioned before. Like I used to have an audition almost every week in Chicago, because that's just how the numbers are. But I think part of what Posey and what you are saying is that a lot of people just don't hold auditions for their productions the way that the constructivists do, but that's just because of the system that I came out of. A lot of it is just, I'm just going to get my friends together, and especially on the non-equity level. And so I think the Theatre Alliance providing space, maybe like a Sunstone Studios thing or something like that, where you don't have to rent, or it's a nominal fee, or like things like that, like providing the space, providing the education. You know, I can help people for days on auditions, and just in getting, one of the things that I said about the Theatre Alliance in the beginning was, we just need more information and more education in the theater community on the whole, to make the community more efficient and just a little bit more, dare I say, professional, to have a system that helps make things more regular and make things more visible is another thing. A lot of people just go, I don't even know where to look for auditions. And so that was part of like getting the calendar up on the Milwaukee Theatre Alliance website, to be able to have one location, to put a whole bunch of stuff, so that it's visible for the whole community. I know that people have tried Facebook pages and things like that, but as people start backing away from Facebook, I know so many people who've dumped that platform. I really think just a website and one place to hold these things is really the way to go. So I really just hope the Theatre Alliance can help normalize the audition cycle and facilitate the ability to make it happen. And so that people have more opportunity to audition. A lot of reasons why people hate auditions because they're doing like the Milwaukee Generals in January and then hope that that's, that they're going to get something out of that and then never audition for the rest of the year. So, the Milwaukee Generals should be, the first thing, of the year, and you start there, and then there's the diversity generals and the Milwaukee Theatre Alliance generals, and then you go to the constructivists, and then you go to Mad Rogues, and then you go, and make it just a thing that people do, just a thing that artists do. You just go out, oh, I have an audition today. And if you're in it, in theory, if you were in the Theatre Alliance system, you would just get an email about it and be like, there's an audition today at such and such, bring your headshot and resume. We have your headshot and resume. Sign up for a time, be there.
Sounds like you know what you want to make.
I'm just a big hoper and dreamer. I'm just, somebody said something in a meeting that I was in recently about art every day. Art every day. I want to make theater and and in art an everyday thing in people's lives. And I'm not talking about television. I'm not talking about movies. We do love that stuff. I've been in the MCU universe for like 4 weeks now. But to make this Marvel Cinematic Universe, Jill, I think you got that look on your face. Anyway,
I was generating other thoughts, so that's the look that I get when I'm listening.
Oh, so you actually just weren't listening to me. Oh, okay.
Well, I sort of was.
but to make art an inherent everyday thing in people's lives. Like why don't people want to see a show every week?
I always laugh at the surveys that are like 1 a year, 1 a month, sometimes 4 a week. Like,
I don't know what to provide.
There are a lot of reasons.
I ask myself that, like, why don't people want to see a show every week?
Some can't. Some are too expensive. Some think theater is only this one thing, not all of these other things. Like, so many answers, infinite answers.
Yeah, there's so many answers, and I want to solve all of them.
Well, we should do that.
Okay.
Next week.
Yeah.
Next week, Utopia. You've got a thing. No, just kidding. But anyway, so yes, so we will talk more about this. But that's to say to all of you out there, like, Milwaukee Theatre Alliance at gmail.com. Email us, any questions that you have, and we're there. We answer shit. But in the meantime, we've got a couple of company businessy type things to go over here just real quick before we finally let you go. And not that people are held here. Let's start here. Let's start there. Let's start here. Joanna, you've got.
I was going to say that one's ours. I was looking forward to listening to you describe it. So we at Milwaukee Opera Theater, we have the final 3 performances of The Sound, which is a new song by Sista Strings that we worked together with them and with Angry Young Men and Traveling Lemur to create a new music video for them. And then we're sharing it in these online soirees, like little parties online that include conversation questions as well as sharing the original video. And we have 3 performances left, and I think there are 3 tickets left, or there were the last time that I looked.
Wow.
And Barbie's under my desk again, so give me a moment.
I love it. Hey, Charlie. Oh no, it's not gonna next page it. I didn't change the settings. Sorry, guys. All right, there we go. Then we have a pink umbrella.
We do have a pink umbrella thing.
You have a ton of things.
You know, because I have a perfect work-life balance, as was pointed out earlier, right? Like, perfect.
Oh.
I am not the model. We are, next week, we are actually embarking on a staged reading. So Jerome Robinson is he's a brand new playwright, and he wrote a TV sitcom. He wrote 6 episodes for a TV sitcom. He and I started this back in March. We meet once a week via phone. The residence that he lives in does not have Wi-Fi. So he and I meet via phone, and he dictates, he tells me his ideas and I type them up. And we've just hired a whole slew of brand new actors to Pink Umbrella for sure. Some of them are Milwaukee natives, some of them are not. And I'm super excited to present, Jerome, a six episode TV series that we have cultivated and written over the course of the past year. March 5th, 7 o'clock. It's totally free to come. It'll be about an hour. And Jerome shared with us, like, he just wants, I asked him in an interview, I was like, what do you want people to walk away with? And he said, I just want people to know that people with cerebral palsy want and feel and need the same things as people who don't. And I think that just kind of shines through. It's a very funny piece, right? It's a comedy. And he wanted something that his niece of 4 could watch when she grows up. Right? Like he writes from his heart, and he writes from his experience and his view on life. And so come join us, come hang out with us next Friday night at 7. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
A thing.
That's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Optimist Theater has their No Holds Barred project that's going on. They're in the Pericles project right now. This goes through April 7th. It's every other week. So Optimist Theater is a complete and total website experience for this in particular. No Holds Barred.org that you can go to for that. It's just it's Shakespeare, Pericles. And they filmed it here in Milwaukee with all of the safe COVID precautions and local artists, and it's awesome. So if you're looking for a little Shakespeare and in a unique format, and what I like about Susan Scott Fry and the other Fry and that team, all the Fries. Is that they make it what's the word I'm looking for? Not palatable.
Fun. Accessible.
There we go. Oh, yikes. Thanks, pandemic.
Enjoyable.
Thanks, pandemic. The last thing that I want to say here is, because I always forget, is Imagine MKE. Imagine MKE is a huge support to us, and they are doing great, amazing things. Their team is a whole team of art advocates, and they are working so hard to get us to 48th place. I'm telling you. In the States. No, they just, I really admire the work that they're doing. I really enjoy, all 3 of us go to meetings, to further advocate this art form and other art forms to make it more a part of people's lives. And they offer so much to this community. And so if you are looking for ways to get involved, go to their website. They have tons of ways to make that happen. And so that's imaginemke.org. You can go over that way to join up with them and become an arts advocate. Do it. Everybody should do it. Become an arts advocate. Part of the reason why I'm still on this planet is because of theater. That's just real. My sass of a kid is the other, but they're both fun in their own.
I'm just gonna nod at you because I'm like, yep, yeah.
So, thank you both for joining on the Theater Alliance bandwagon from the start. I mean, I can honestly say it wouldn't be anywhere that it is without the two of you, for sure.
Well, the wagon.
You keep pulling the wagon. We'll push when we need to.
I appreciate that. There's a lot of work to do in this community, but I have met great artists like you and a bunch of other people who are involved with the Theater Alliance that I know that it's possible to make things better for artists in this community. I have hope that we can make it happen together, strength in numbers. And thank you all out there for joining us again. If you need more information, go to the website. You can send us an email if you want to get involved. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Don't know what we're doing next week, but we'll be here.
Great, whatever it is.
We'll be here. If it's just me monologuing how I'm going
There's so much coming up. There's so much coming up. There's a lot of work that's about.
There's a ton. There's always stuff going on. There's always stuff going on. So we will always have things to talk about. So we'll see you next week. On You've Got a Thing!